Hey guys, Nishquick here, and welcome back once again to the EXP podcast. And today I am joined by a very special guest, and that is Noah Hunter from Final Weapon. If you guys have seen any of the Beyond the Conduit episodes from Final Weapon, this is the guy who does them. Very awesome videos. Noah, you want to introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah. Thank you so much. My name is Noah Hunter. I'm the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Final Weapon. I'm a multimedia, games, anime, manga outlet for journalism. So you might have seen some of our videos for Beyond the Conduit with the Xenoblade series, or Xeno, I should say. And then I also have a series on Final Fantasy VII
Mm-hmm.
called Under the Plate. And yeah, I mean, I oversee all of our content at Final Weapon, whether written or video. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I try to do what I can. And obviously, I'm a really big Xenoblade fan as well. So
Yeah, I'm very happy that a gaming journalism outlet like you guys is like heavily covering like JRPGs and specifically the Xeno series because I wouldn't say sometimes it's overlooked, but like I really like when like big content creators or like journalists really cover games like this. So it's really nice to see the kind of recognition that it deserves, you know? Yeah.
no, I really appreciate that. And yeah, no, I totally agree. I think like in general, in the mainstream of games journalism, especially not talking in Japan or elsewhere, like here in the West. There's definitely a lack of, it's gotten better in recent
Hmm.
years, but there's definitely a lack of like really intense coverage on specifically JRPGs and stuff like that. And so, it's funny, I found this got founded when I was 16. So
Hmm.
it's been a minute.
Oh yeah.
But whenever we founded it, my whole thing was like, I'm so tired of clickbait. There's so much clickbait everywhere. It was like, I just want to have, nonsense free stuff covering the niche stuff that a lot of us love. So that's kind of been the passion for that. But I want to say, thank you so much for having me on. You've got a really great collection of videos, and it's really been great to see you grow.
Yeah, thank you. I
And I'm
appreciate
always
it.
down to talk anything JRPGs. I mean, as you can see.
Oh
So
yeah. And I've been like getting more into Final Fantasy VII as well. Like, of course, even just the Final Fantasy series. Like, my history with Final Fantasy VII is a pretty long one, but after Rebirth, I am now kind of like really into the fandom, and I'm really looking forward to making content for Part 3. So I'll probably be
yeah, dude,
discussing a lot of that stuff with you in the future as well. And
looking forward to it.
yeah, but what have you been up to? I mean, like the last couple weeks have been very busy for us, especially Nintendo Switch fans who are also fans of Xenoblade. We got Xenoblade X. Literally 2 weeks later, we got the Switch 2 Direct, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But if you've been playing anything like Xenoblade included, what have you just been playing recently?
So there's a lot I can't talk about that I'm
Yeah.
currently under NDA. Like 3 or 4 things. So I can't talk about that, but I will say, yeah, I've gotten through Xenoblade. So I clocked in, I think 118 hours is what I finished with. So I'm done. I played X. Beyond that, honestly, not a lot. I've been doing a lot of planning for stuff like Summer Game Fest coming up, and then stuff I can't talk about right now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been what I've been doing. But yeah, the Switch 2, that was a day.
That
That was a
was
day.
a day because I got up that morning at 6 a.m. and I reacted to the direct with my friend. And like I listened to your guys' episode of Switch Point this week, and yeah, the direct was great. Like I enjoyed the games. I had a few issues, like not everything is like super exciting for me. I was missing some of the JRPGs in there. I overall liked the show. I was very impressed with the hardware. Everything after that, literally like what the direct ended at like 9 a.m. Like 9:30 afterwards that day was just like everything was going kind of downhill. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and it's so funny because when we were covering the direct, I got up, I went and got some Chick-fil-A for breakfast, ate, came back, and it was like, all right, we put out 70 articles that day. I mean, there was
Oh, yeah.
so much, but it just Nintendo, that was a self-inflicted wound. I mean, they chose to withhold all this information, and it's just like you said, every hour it just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And even today, I mean, there's still stuff like over a week later that we just don't know, that they
Yeah.
just haven't clarified. And but no, I agree. I was really really impressed with the hardware. I had a bet going with a friend that the 120 hertz screen was going to be a real thing. So I was really happy to see that.
That was a big surprise because I was still doubtful that we would get 4K 60. And everyone's like even years back, they're like, Switch 2 is going to be 4K 60. I'm like, guys, this is Nintendo we're talking about here. Like, they're not going to do 4K 60. 120 hertz was out of the question for me. Every time I saw a rumor for 120 hertz, I was like, out of the question. No, definitely not. This isn't a portable PC. And now, like, it's doing it. It's more powerful than even what I can play on my Steam Deck. So now I'm like, I'm curious about getting into Cyberpunk, but I have that question in my mind. Do I get it on GOG on PC, or do I get it on the Switch 2 whenever the Switch 2 comes out? Because it'll be all on the cart, so like, that's cool as well. But it is, there's a lot of stuff going on with that, but this talk I want to have with you is primarily going to be focused on Monolithsoft. We'll talk about more Switch 2 as well, especially near the end, but I wanted to ask you in particular, since you're a Xeno fan, not just a Xenoblade fan, what got you into the Xeno series? Because that is a very interesting story that I like to hear from everyone else. My story is not the same as someone else's story, and like even the people who got me into the series have very vastly different stories about how they got into these games. So I want to hear that from you.
Yeah, I mean, I tell people this and people laugh, but like, you know, when I first got into the series, you know, I remember watching the Switch 2 presentation be like, okay, yeah, this looks really cool. I had heard about, you know, Xenoblade before from a couple people, and I'll be honest, like, and I'll talk about this more later, I'm sure, when we talk about our original experience with X. I didn't have a Wii U, so that was something that I didn't end up purchasing into, and so I kind of had a lull of a gaming period between about 2015 to late 2016. I only played maybe a couple games a year. And whether that was, you know, school or something like that, I just didn't really, you know, I didn't have a Nintendo console, which was usually my main thing with an Xbox. So I kind of just coasted along with my Xbox One and played Madden and stuff like that and a couple other games. But when the Switch came around and Xenoblade 2 got shown up, I was like, this looks really interesting. And it was the E3 presentation. And it's so I tell people the story. It was the E3 presentation with the teaser trailer, and they're showing all these characters. And everyone was going crazy over, oh my gosh, like, who's this blonde girl? Who's Pyra? Who's this? Who's that? And I was just like, this looks crazy. Yeah. I was like, I need this game. And so, you know, the environments look beautiful, and I got it on, you know, day one for Xenoblade 2. And ever since then, it's like, you know, I played Xenoblade Chronicles in 2018. I played X late after that. And it's just been kind of this wild, I call it, you know, Takahashi's wild ride.
Yeah. As Mobius D says in Xenoblade 3, it's a wild ride, this passage of fate, and that is what the Xenoblade fandom is. And then I'm guessing you've played Gears and Saga as well, right?
Yeah, I played Gears I think in 2019, and then I played Saga in 2020, like right before the pandemic.
Oh wow! So you got caught up before Xenoblade 3. You had the optimal Xenoblade 3 experience.
I did.
So my story is a little different because this goes all the way back to when Shulk was announced for Smash. I will go back all the way to Operation Rainfall because I remember when that was happening. I saw the Red Sword, I saw Xenoblade Chronicles, but I didn't understand what was happening. I was like, why do people want these games to come to the West? I don't really get it, because I was like in middle school then. All I played was Pokemon, Mario, and Zelda, and I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I wasn't opposed to it, but I was just like kind of confused. And then Shulk was included in Smash 4, and I was like, oh, that's the Xenoblade guy. Okay, that's what Xenoblade is about. It's about this guy with this kind of like a lightsaber who like looks to the future and all that. And then that summer, just like you, during the Wii U era, I was kind of out of it, not playing much video games, very busy with school and college applications and all that. And I had also built a PC, so I was trying to like be one of the cool kids, like, oh, if I'm playing a video game, it's gonna be on my PC, you know? And one of my cousins, he like messaged me that summer. He's like, hey, I'm bored, summer vacation, I don't know what game to play. And on a whim, I told him, hey, you should play that Xenoblade Chronicles game where Shulk is from Smash 4, because I was playing Smash 4 with my friends during the summer vacation. And he was like, okay. And then a month later, he texts me, he's like, dude, I played Xenoblade Chronicles, it is one of the best games ever. You need to play it right now. And I'm like, whatever. No, I don't care. I don't want to like look for that game. It's so hard to find it. And throughout this time, one of my other really good friends, who I'm still friends with now, was always telling me about Xenoblade X. He was like, dude, I know you're like waiting for Zelda Wii U. I'm waiting for Zelda Wii U as well, but like, look at this game. It's so insane. Like, look at all the stuff you can do. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really interested, whatever. But he got X. He played it, he loved it, and it's still his favorite game of all time. And those two people, my cousin and that one friend, came back to me in 2020. Like, I missed out on the Xenoblade 2 hype. I missed out on the Torna hype because I was kind of a later adopter onto Nintendo Switch. So when Xenoblade 1 DE came out, they came back to me and they're like, hey, now is your chance. Now is your chance to start at the first game. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'll play this Xenoblade, whatever. And at first, it was a little bit of a rocky start because that was when I was kind of getting acclimated into JRPGs again after a very long break. And this was like my first like open world JRPG. It was a very weird experience. I took many breaks, but then when I saw the end of the game, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, oh my god, what's going on? And then when I saw Xenoblade 2, I was like, oh, this is such a deviation from Xenoblade 1. I'll probably just stick to X and just skip out on Xenoblade 2. But then the reason that I jumped onto Xenoblade 2 is because I asked that friend, how are these games connected? And he was like, I can't tell you that. And I'm like, so wait, they are connected. And he's like, just play the game and you'll figure it out. But I was too impatient. So I kind of looked at some spoilers. I saw who the architect was. I saw his name. And then I ordered the game immediately. I was like, okay, if that's where they're going with this, I need to see this through to the end. So I played Xenoblade 2, loved it, and then 3 was announced, and then I got X on Wii U from a used copy from GameStop, and I'm very happy that I was able to pay a much better price because that was before the Wii U eShop closure was even announced, so I was very lucky. And I dabbled in it a bit before Xenoblade 3 came out, but another thing I did before Xenoblade 3, because I was watching a lot of creators like Luxon and NL and a lot of these people talk about the trailers, and they're like, this reminds me of Xenogears, this reminds me of Xenogears, and I wasn't very interested in Gears and Saga at that time, but I was like, hey, let me look into this a bit. And then I realized, like, Xenogears is a troubled game. I was like, oh, I will probably never play this game, I'll just watch a story recap. So I watched a story recap and I got the gist of it, but I actually went back to play it last year, and I'm glad that I didn't remember everything because it's now in my top 5 favorite video games of all time. Xenogears, like, it's not... Xenoblade 3 is my favorite Xeno game, but Xenogears is, like... It is my favorite retro RPG. It is probably my favorite video game story of all time. But that's my experience with the Xeno series, and I'm very happy that we got X back. Like, what was your experience with X on the Wii U versus on the Switch?
Yeah, so I didn't have a Wii U, so yeah. I played X. I have a copy, so yeah. But I played X.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you most definitely played X. Yeah.
I played quite a bit of X on my PC. So I did that, and this was 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. And I was like, I really enjoyed it. I don't think that I appreciated it as much as I do now, but I definitely enjoyed it. And I thought it was a good game. Definitely have issues here and there, but, overall really good game. So I honestly, Takahashi said in 2018 that he wants to bring this game over. And I was like, oh, come on, like, it's got to happen. But, time and time went on, and I was just like, I don't know if it's going to happen on Switch. But I woke up one morning and there it was. And it's
it
like,
was
I'm
so
really glad it
random.
did.
That tweet was so random. It just came out of nowhere. I was like, what is going on? I was at work and I got like so many pings on Discord at once. And I saw the box art. I was like, why are people posting this fake box art? I've seen it before. And then I was like, oh my God, it's actually real. Oh my God. Yeah. X is a very interesting. Really cool. Yeah. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say it was really cool, and I agree. Like, I didn't think it was real. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, come on, because it had the same red definitive edition. I was like, surely that's not right. And then I'm looking, I'm like, well, Nintendo's dropped game announcements at 8 a.m. before, and I'm like, I guess this is real. But no,
I I really, like you said, I have a newfound appreciation for Xenoblade X now, because I feel like when I played it on Wii U, I prolonged my experience, because I played a bit before 3 came out, then 3 came out, I played 3, and then other games got in the way, and I just kind of neglected X, and then Tears of the Kingdom came out. That was another game that took me away from Xenoblade X, and then Future Redeemed as well. But then last year, I'm very glad that I'm going into this having played the original story and understood the original story of X, but it's a very different kind of experience, and I'm kind of like scripting out sort of like a review on it right now, and I actually really appreciate the changes versus the numbered game so much more now that I'm playing it on Switch, because I'm actually like digesting the dialogue of the side quests, really immersing myself into the world and the characters, and it's a really it still feels like Xenoblade, but in a whole new setting, and it just feels a lot more realistic, which I really appreciate. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think I'm just about wrapped up with my review. I think I said something along the lines of like, it has the bones of Xenoblade, but the skin is something completely different, right? It keeps the things that make the series, but also, I mean, Xenoblade X is essentially a single player MMO. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it is. And so a lot of the structure is real different, and I do appreciate it. I'll if I had to pick one or the other, I tell people I love just big stories, right? Like I definitely prefer the cutscene approach, but I
Yeah.
really do appreciate the way that they put this game together. And I tell people, I'm like, regardless of what you feel about the main story, the real meat of everything is in all
It's
those
the
side
side quests,
quests and
yeah.
interactions that you have to go do yourself, because the world is basically just waiting for you to go explore it. And I mean, Mira is like a blank canvas when you launch the game. I mean, we know nothing about it. You know, absolutely not. You just know it's this planet. And you have to go around and basically like eat every person you talk to kind of, puts a swab of color on this canvas. And slowly you get a picture of like, okay, wow, this is what this game's about. And
That's a
it's really
very
cool
good
because
way to describe it. Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool because I don't think very many games kind of take that environmental world building approach. We see big RPGs like we mentioned earlier, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
It's a very story heavy game. It's got some good world building in there. You walk by NPCs, they're talking, they're saying things that are definitely happening in part 3, just saying, and you're walking by like, oh, whoa, what are you saying? But like Xenoblade X takes that to an entire different level, because it's like you're not going to understand like probably 60% of the stuff that this world has to offer unless you really just dig your claws into it and really, get yourself out there.
And a lot of the character writing is so it's very subtle, I've noticed, because it's not like it's not as maybe personal as something like Xenoblade 2 and Xenoblade 3 are. Like you see like Pyramithra and Numa, they're like very like impactful character development throughout the entire game of Xenoblade 2. Then you see like Noah and Mio in Xenoblade 3, but I feel like Xenoblade X is relatable in a whole different way. Like I'm going slow with the affinity quests, but it's very interesting to see characters interact with you, tell their stories about how life was like on Earth, how they're comparing that with life on Mira, and just their relationships with each other. Like some of my favorites are like the Kristoff brothers. They're talking about how their relationship is fractured when they're here on Mira versus how it was like on Earth. A Murderous in Arena, that dynamic is very interesting as well. Hopes is my personal favorite affinity mission in the base game. I love that whole quest line because these characters, like I said, they're not like super special when you compare them to like other numbered Xenoblade characters, or even like Xenogears or Xenosaga characters, but they're so like grounded and relatable, and that's what I love about them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to put it, right? It's like how I think about X a lot of the time. It's like you're definitely right. Like these characters in X, you can't come into them being like, all right, like I'm expecting a really huge arc that tells, this whole story of trauma with Pyre and Mithra or something like that. But I think that's really what makes X great. And that really, you look at the fact that you make your own protagonist, right? That's meant to be like almost a self-insert. You're supposed to, the whole reason for Cross is, or whoever you name it. I mean, I name mine Logos. I did
Ah,
Mouse.
sick.
But I mean, whoever you create your character as, that's essentially you as a vessel going through the world and interacting with these people. And I think that's really what makes X so great, because like you said, everyone's grounded. I mean, I think that's really great about this is like, you don't know anything, but at the same time, these are normal people doing normal things, just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And I think that really allows you to connect with the characters in a different way than you can with, characters who are just drawn out very emotionally with really rich character writing. Like,
Yeah.
I still think that that's here. It's just presented in a different way, which is really nice. And I think for people who, have not played X before, it's probably a really nice breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I still prefer the heavy-handed approach with character writing. Like, I love, like, the character arcs of, like, Rex, Pyramithra, Numa. A lot of what happens in Xenoblade 3, I really like that, because it's reminiscent of what happens in some other instances in Xenogears and things like that as well. So I still prefer that, but I didn't expect to appreciate it, like X's approach, as much as I do. And I will say, I think I appreciate it a lot more now in the definitive edition than I did in the Wii U playthrough, because, like I said, I was rushing through the Wii U playthrough. And another thing is, like, it was slow. You'll probably remember, but, like, affinity grinding was slow. There were characters that I just neglected because I'm like, I don't know where you are in ULA, so I'm not gonna get out of my way to find you. I'm sorry. I want to do your quests, but like Bose, for example, I did his first quest. I hated him so much that I'm like, I'm not gonna remember where you are in ULA, so like screw you, whatever. And now I was shocked to realize that by chapter 7 I had at least 4 hearts of affinity on everyone. And I was like, this feels liberating for me, because I'm like, now I feel encouraged to do all the affinity missions, which I felt restricted on in the Wii U version. And not only just affinity missions, but normal missions, which are still really good and well written in this game, even though they aren't voiced. I feel compelled to do them because they're easier to track, they're easier to do, they're just a lot more manageable. So that's one really big plus with this game.
Yeah, I mean, no, I definitely agree. I think also, like, I remember whenever it was revealed that, like, hey, you guys aren't going to have to go and chase to find a party member to add to your party. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, that's all I wanted. And I remember people were like, oh, that's going to take away from the fun of exploring New Orleans. I'm like, no, I don't want to go through that Chugville, is what I call it. Like, it still chugs. It does. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I'm just glad to be able to go and not have to mess with that. But again, I totally agree. I think even the quests that aren't voiced definitely give something, which is nice, because, that a lot of the times in some of these JRPGs, it feels like that those unvoiced quests are ones that just don't really have much substance, but you definitely feel that here, which is good. And again, I think, like I said earlier, if you view Mira as a canvas, every little bit is adding to that. And again, that's just really not something you see super often in a lot of games.
I remember, I think it was last year or the year before, some of my friends were watching me on Discord playing the Wii U version of X, and they saw me doing some quests, and they're like, oh my god, this reminds me of Xenoblade 1 quests. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, Xenoblade 1 has the worst quests in the series, and I'm like, I get what you mean, but, like, the premise of this quest that I'm doing right now is really cool, I promise you. And they're like, no, I just see you collecting items, and you don't even know where they are. It's a waste of time. I'm like, guys, I promise you, when this comes out on the Switch, this will be better. The definitive edition will fix all this stuff, and you guys will get to experience all these quests. And then it was announced, and I'm like, yes, finally. But yeah, a lot of the normal quests are still very good. Like, some of my favorites, like, I haven't done them yet because I want to, like, just kind of wait them out and, like, re-experience them again. Like, the Water Woes one, that was insane, because I heard a lot of people talk about that in the Wii U version, but I just kind of accepted, and I was like, oh, I'll just do this quest, whatever. And then I was just kind of going through the motions like I was doing on the Wii U version, which I kind of regret doing. And then I got to, like, that part of the quest, and I'm like, oh my god, what did I just do? that was my choice. Oh my god. And that was kind of mind-blowing. And then the Back to the Future quest, the Blood Lobster quest, like all these things, re-experiencing them and paying more attention to them has been a part of why I'm really truly loving this experience on the Switch. So that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, what you mentioned about choice, that's something that
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize from the outside about this game, but like your choices matter so
Oh
much. I
yeah.
mean, the stuff that you do, I mean, it could be as simple as like, or, act confused or act impressed. Like that has an impact later on. And
Hmm.
so that's really cool because again, with this idea of creating your own character and, being immersed in this world, the fact that your choices can really actually affect things and like, permanently remove
Oh
or
yeah.
add things is crazy. I mean, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's something that I hope they bring back in the Xenoblade series as well. I I really feel like Takahashi has been implementing things from X, especially heavily in Xenoblade 3. The world design of 3 reminded me of X. If there was no loading zones between the regions of Ionios, it would have felt like X. A lot of the party customization reminded me of X. And then Future Redeemed was the big one because when Future Redeemed came out, not like a whole lot of people who were playing with me did not have not played X, but I kept telling them Affinity Goals is literally Frontier Nav, but like
Yep.
it's streamlined Frontier Nav. I was very happy to see that. Like me and my friend, who like one of my friends who got me into the series, whose favorite game is X, I was like, you must be really enjoying this because this is like streamlined, modernized Frontier Nav, and he's like, yeah, it's great. Yeah.
No, that was great. Now, I think that it'll be really interesting because I definitely, after having played so much of this game, and obviously the fact that they brought it back, I think says a lot about the future of the series. And it'll be really interesting to kind of see where that leads to. But I definitely agree. I would really like to see some of the more like, I would call them like social elements in this game implemented into the future ones, even if it's like, I mean, Xenoblade 4 likely will be a narrative-focused game with cutscenes and heavy, character exposition. That's a game I would still like to see the social elements. Like, maybe we go to a village and it's like, okay, you know what? You got to help the village or you don't. And like that might have an effect later
Yeah.
or something. I mean, now granted, maybe let's say there's a recruitable party member there, and then we're getting into a little gotcha field skills action from Xenoblade 2, and I don't know how people are gonna feel about that.
I like the idea of optional party members in
Yeah.
a Xenoblade game, and it would be like we had optional party members for 2 and 3. So, like you had the optional legendary blades or rare blades, and then you had the heroes in 3. But what if they did it like a Yuffie or a Vincent from FF7 or a Magus from Chrono Trigger, where like they're integral to the story, but you can entirely miss them? That would be so cool.
It'd be crazy. Like
Yeah.
imagine that if you don't recruit them, they just show up in the final battle. And you're like, who is this person?
Yeah.
Like, who is this person? But yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy because not a lot of modern games do that anymore. I mean, it's interesting. So I would really be interested to see like a true important main party member be recruitable.
Yeah.
Because like, I'm interested to see kind of how that would turn out.
Yeah, the only game I can think of doing that sort of is like Fire Emblem, but it's been a mainstay in Fire Emblem. But even with Fire Emblem, it is sort of implied that that person must be recruited. It's not like a entirely missable thing like Yuffie, Vincent, or Magus, which
Yeah. No, you don't have to run around in circles in the forest to try to get Yuffie to pop up.
Yeah, but before we move on to some other things about Xenoblade X, I just wanted to ask you, what are some of your favorite quests in the game that you've done?
I think Blood Lobster. I love Blood Lobster. That's probably my favorite one. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. You listed off quite a few of my favorites. I mean, I will say, contrary to a lot of people, I also really enjoy the main story. I definitely have issues with it, but I think overall for what it is, I mean, it's basically like, hey, it's like an MMO. This is your intro to the world, and excuse me, this is your intro to the world, and you got to basically just jump in, and
Yeah.
this is kind of your like your appetizer, and then you jump in on the side quests.
Yeah, I remember in your first episode post Xenoblade X, you were like, story's not as good, it's not as good, but that's comparing it to the other 3 games. So that's a
Right.
very high bar to hit, but like, I did chapter 11 last night, and there were like some like nitpicks I had in my head where I was like, oh, I remember this, it's not good, this was like totally obvious, things like that. But there are still some surprises, and what I love so much about X is, again, like getting back to the side quests. The side quests give you the lore. With that lore, you can experience the main story and get to some very insane conclusions. Like, I don't want to get into like much lore and spoiler stuff here, but I have talked to many of my friends about how this could fit into the mythos very, like, interestingly because of the lore that we have dissected from this game. And I am going to start the epilogue tomorrow, but I am very excited and I'm very nervously excited for the epilogue. I've heard very interesting things from some people, so
yeah. I won't say anything, but I definitely have an opinion on
okay. Oh boy.
We'll see. I'm really excited for people to start talking about it, because I definitely think that there's a lot of interesting stuff there that is definitely going to play into the future. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where people's theories and conclusions come to. But I've definitely seen a few, and it's been like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, did you really play everything, or did you just play this? Because I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. But, yeah. With X, you gotta dig in really deep with it. So yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah. Now I guess I actually think we talked a lot about a lot of the changes in X. I think one more thing I wanted to quickly talk about is I feel personally, for me, I'm not only delving more into the story and side quests, but I'm delving more into my build as well. Like, I finally know how to use overdrive. The UI and the UX is a lot nicer now, so it's easier to understand what I'm doing, and like the menu management is easier, and I've already maxed out 3 classes, and it's been so much fun to play around with them. So I'm kind of in a dilemma of what my Drifter build is going to be when I go back to Drifter. So that's been a whole new experience for me, because I'm playing the classes that I just didn't play in the Wii U version. I did Duelist and FMJ in Wii U, but in here I started with Mastermind, then I went to Astral Crusader, and now I'm doing Galactic Knight, which is... Galactic Knight is fun, but it's a learning curve. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. I feel like I definitely spent more time like just messing around with the different classes this time around. I also mainly did FMJ for when I first played the game, which is a very, very fun class. But again, I agree with you. Like, I think the ability to just kind of go in here with all the new QOL features has really made a big difference. I mean, I'm someone, and I know that this is a controversial opinion for some, like, Xenoblade 1 is my least favorite combat system in the series. Xenoblade X carries over a lot of that. And so, I'm not saying I don't like it, but I definitely, going into it, was kind of like, all right, get it over with. But I've actually had a pretty good time with it. Just the mobility feels a lot nicer this time around. The guide for overdrive is really nice, so I'm not like writing down notes. I have a notepad somewhere with all my notes
color combos.
Yeah, right.
My friend gave me a guide. He wrote like a Word doc guide for me, and I'm like, thank you so much. But even with that, I was so confused because my build sucked. I was like, my build sucked. I don't know how to like increase the overdrive timer, and the overdrive timer in the Wii U was this like tiny dial you could never see, and now it's literally numbers you can see, so that helps so much.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they did such a good improvement with the UI. I will say it's really interesting to me that like orange has been decided on as like the big, like, I guess, like key color used in the UIs for battle. You see it in the bottom corners, because it wasn't really it wasn't really there in Xenoblade 2. But then Xenoblade 3 had it, Xenoblade DE, and now Xenoblade X. So that's like the big mainstay. But the UI is really clean. It's really clean. And they cleaned it up nice. And honestly, again, I think if you played Xenoblade X on the Wii U, playing it with this new UI is worth it alone. I mean, it makes the game entirely more enjoyable.
Yeah. One thing you said about the UI, I love how Xenoblade 3, it's predominantly orange, but it plays into like the diegetic UI of the world, because it's almost like they can see through their irises, so that's cool.
Yes, super cool.
Yeah. One more quality of life feature that I didn't think that I would like. There was something that I think you mentioned. Oh yeah, it was the the character changing. A lot of people are like, I don't mind running around New LA to find people. For me, the thing that I didn't mind, like that, I did mind that, but the thing that I personally didn't mind was the field skills in Xenoblade X, because I didn't think they were as bad as Xenoblade 2's field skills, which like seriously roadblock you. But in Xenoblade X, I like the idea that I choose my division and my preferred playstyle plays into that division, and I get blade points through that, and with that I can get more FN sites and treasures and all that. And they did away with that in this. And at first when I saw that in the previews, I was like, oh dang, that was something I actually kind of enjoyed in the original. Like I enjoyed prioritizing mechanicals so I can get all the FN sites and all that, but I'm now realizing that I have gotten to a survey rate of Mira that is beyond what I even got on the Wii U version.
Wow.
And I'm like, I prefer this. I have so much more money. I have so much more Moranium. I have a much better build, and it's all because this one thing is just like not holding me back anymore. So at first I was a skeptic, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you're still exploring. You're looking for these treasures, you're looking for these FN sites. So that's still there in the end. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I was definitely worried about how it would affect progression specifically because, part of Xenoblade X and what makes it unique is that grind. And I know people are all, I don't like the grind. The grind is it's in this game's DNA.
Hell
So
yeah.
if you don't like the grind, like, I'm sorry, but I was worried. I was like, okay, like, are they just making this too newcomer friendly to where, okay, you just get a walk through Mira and it's all fine. But they did a good job, and it still feels like there's still like, you have to work for stuff still, which I appreciate. And I was gonna say, only other UI thing that I really liked and I wasn't sure about was the art recharge. And I know that that's something that, I mean, it's broken and
it is very broken.
I was like, oh, I don't know about this because I was like, this is gonna mess up the whole flow of combat. But yeah, it's awesome. I'm like,
it helped me so much in the early game when someone was like calling for soul voice, and it's like literally an art I just used. I'm like, hey, I can just go back and use that. And
no, it's super nice.
Art recharge is generally slower in this game, and it's good that they're just kind of speeding things up. You can see it with every subsequent game in the series. They want to speed up the combat because they have something good going here with the auto attack and MMO system. But what people want, what people who don't like the combat of Xenoblade want, is for it to be faster and smoother. And quick recast is something that really adds into that. But something I've noticed is I've also, with a much more expanded and leveled up arts palette, I feel like I'm using it a little bit less. Because now my arts recharge faster, especially with Overdrive, they recharge a lot faster. And with higher level arts, it uses more of your energy meter, so it's a little risk and reward there as well.
Yeah, it's definitely good balance. I agree with you though. Like, it is essential for early game. It changes everything it helps you grind so much faster in the early game. But yeah, I mean, you use it on a couple of the skill arts. It's like, okay, that's it. Like, you get one done, and you kind of have to be careful with it, right?
Yeah. Whenever I grind on my skill, I just use the G Buster, and then that takes like almost 2 minutes to recharge. But I'm like, it's worth it. It's almost a one shot.
100%.
Let's get into a very exciting discussion about the future of Monolithsoft, especially with what we saw last week with the Nintendo Switch 2 show. We got a very powerful system coming to us. It is probably a little more expensive than we thought. Games might be a little more expensive than we thought. We'll get into that in a bit as well, but this thing is powerful. And like our Switches right here, this, like, I can't believe, like, when Nvidia came out with the press release saying this system is going to be 10 times more powerful than the original Switch. And people have been saying this like last year, the year before, and the year before. Like, everyone was like, what can Zelda EPD3 team do, and what can Monolithsoft do? Because if we see them doing Xenoblade X on the Wii U, the freaking Wii U, which is like underpowered compared to the Switch, what are they going to do on the Switch 2? My Monolithsoft fandom brain is thinking even something on the level of FF7 Rebirth, if not bigger, because they are talented, they know how to push the limits of hardware and optimize really well, and we see a lot of, I think, hints as to what exploration gameplay elements we might see for the future in something like X. So what are your biggest hopes and dreams for the future of Monolithsoft?
Oh man, I mean, in terms of just
Everything.
what I think the console's gonna do, so I'm with you. Like you hear all about this console, and it's like, we've been talking about the next Switch since 2019,
Yeah.
right? Switch Pro, Switch Pro, Switch Pro, and I was like,
Mhm.
take my money, take my money, and then finally it's like, okay, we're not doing that. We get here, and NVIDIA puts out that press release, which, do I believe NVIDIA? Probably not. I think that 10 times is probably at the best settings with DLSS. However,
It's a lot of PR
it's really,
speak. Yeah.
right, but it's still really impressive. It's still really impressive. And, I think honestly, I've seen a lot of people, even professional outlets, downplay the technical specs of the system. I mean, I'm not trying to call people out, but like, Digital Foundry said that this is like a lower level mid PlayStation 4 system. It's not. I promise you it's not. Everything that we've seen from this, it's going to use the T239. They haven't confirmed it, but that's what the chip is. And, the Switch 2, regardless of 4K or not, DLSS, if you're unfamiliar, is an AI upscaling algorithm. And that really is going to make such a difference. I mean, we're seeing games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's coming
Yeah.
to Switch 2. Cyberpunk is running at 1080p on Switch 2 at 40 FPS.
And that's just
crazy.
a 7-week-old build.
7
So
weeks.
think
And
about how much they can patch in the next couple months to optimize it even more.
And apparently, at least, none of the games that we saw were using DLSS.
Yeah.
Which is like, so think about Cyberpunk, and you're like, okay, if they get DLSS running on that game's probably running at 60 frames per second.
Yeah, and
I think
FF7 Remake and Elden Ring, I think, were running at 30, but
1080p 30.
yeah, so I think they could definitely go up to 60, because
Oh yeah.
Elden Ring was 60 was Elden Ring 60 FPS on PS4? I don't remember.
It was 60, but it was uncapped. So
Okay.
if you played it on PS5, it was like locked 60.
Yes.
It was great, but the PS5 version was broken. It
Yeah.
was like, it did not run well. So
That's
I played
why
the PS4 version.
I actually, yeah, I did the same. I have on my shelf the PS4 version. I played it on my PS5.
Yeah, my buddy is a huge FromSoft fan, and I just remember the first day he bought the PS4/PS5 one, and he was like, oh my gosh, like it's lagging so much, and he just went to the PS4 one and never looked back. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing then.
I
It looks the same. Like,
I was scared to get the PC version because all my friends got it on PC, and I was like, I heard a lot of bad things about the PC version. I was like, no, I'll stick to PS4 on PS5 backwards compatibility.
Yeah, but it's really good. I mean, I think that, people have got to realize that, like, this is a very powerful console. And, I think that with Monolithsoft, especially with, Xenoblade 4, we're talking about, like, you look at what Xenoblade 3 was able to accomplish, and, X as well, especially. But when we're talking about these narrative-focused games with Xenoblade 3, the world that they were able to create, this stylized everything, like, that is going to look unbelievable on Switch 2. I can't even begin to process. I agree with you. I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a great, like,
Yeah.
man, it might look like that. Like, it really might. And, that's so exciting. And I promise you, I mean, we got to think about this too. And this is something that people don't think about, right? The games that we're seeing right now for Switch 2 and for Xenoblade 4, these are going to be the worst looking Switch 2 games. Look at Xenoblade 2 versus Xenoblade 3. That's a huge jump, because that's across, what, 5 years?
Yeah.
5 years. I mean, the games towards the latter part of the console look the
They're
best.
gonna look
So, I
even
mean,
better.
we're-
Yeah.
I'm going to be blown away by whatever they show off first. And I already know that, like, well, by the time we get to the end of the Switch 2 life cycle, and we're talking like now about Switch 2, 5-6 years from now, it's going to be like, wow, like this looks as good. I'm telling you, this is going to be the game that is like, okay, Monolith is putting out games that look better than stuff that Sony's putting out on PlayStation. I'm telling you, it will be.
I kept joking with some friends and other like fans and content creators, but I feel like people actually start taking them seriously now that their games are gonna look this good. And
it's so the graphics worse. This is something I tell people all the time. It's like I need to make a video on this at some point, but I'm like, Final Fantasy VII is the game that started the graphics war, because everyone was like, oh my gosh,
first
like, this looks
AAA
great.
game.
And we've got right, and we've gotten to this point where it's like, I don't, the PS4 to PS5 jump fidelity wise is like it's noticeable, but like is it really? It's text a little bit better textures, it's shadows, it's lighting, it's all this realism stuff. And also with Monolith, they don't do realism, right? They do stylized
Yeah,
graphics, stylized art style, and that's gonna look
yeah.
infinitely better than like anything that people are putting out. It will. It
Like,
just will.
I remember Takahashi saying that part of the reason they went so anime with Xenoblade 2 is because of the expressions that the characters
Right.
can emote with these like stylized looks. And I don't know about you, but I really like this look that they have for the characters in Xenoblade X. It's a really nice balance between the realism of Xenoblade 1 on the Wii and the kind of uncanny look of them on the Wii U version of X, and then it's kind of bringing in some of the anime stylized look of the characters in Xenoblade 2 and 3 in there as well. Like Elma's new look, I really, really like how she looks like. Elma, Lynn, Cross, I love how a lot of some of the redesigned characters look. Even like Gwyn and Elle, like a lot of those characters whose faces have been like completely redone. I'm thinking of how they can maybe stylize that a bit more and have a completely new look for Xenoblade 4 or something beyond. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like Elmo, like that pic when we first saw Elmo, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like who are you? Like it's like, wait, what? No, they did a great job uplifting and keeping true to that original vision, but also kind of implementing, newer technology and aligning it closer with the series. I definitely have a soft spot for Masatsugu Saito and his
Yeah.
character designs, and I think like the way what they were able to do on Xenoblade 3, and I love Xenoblade 2, don't get me wrong, but the
Saito
way that they were
cooked
able,
with 3. He
yes,
had
and
some
and
very amazing designs in
yeah,
3.
I think I mean, I love his design work on 2 is incredible.
Yeah.
Same thing for 3, but the way that they were able to kind of model those characters to kind of have hints of that realism, they have a pronounced nose, they have
Yeah.
this, they have that. Like, I think that I would expect, if I were to guess, that's what the series will be going forward, maybe. But I will say, I really do like the art style in X too.
Yeah.
I think people do get lost in the shuffle though, because like I've seen people online. This is back when like Xenoblade 1 got the definitive edition, and people were like, oh, they animated
Yeah.
it. Like, it's like, oh man, like Xeno's not about anime slap. And I'm like, please play Xenosaga and tell me that it's not anime.
Even
Like,
Xenogears.
please.
Xenogears
No,
is
either one. Either
yeah,
one.
Xenogears is 90s anime, the video game. It is
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
anime in every sense. But
It's really funny.
one thing that you just reminded me of is one thing I do want to see is design character design consistency. Like for example, look at Final Fantasy 7, 8, 10, 13, 15. All Tetsuya Nomura. You see one of those characters, you just take like Lightning or Noctis or Tidus, you know that's a Tetsuya Nomura character. So I want them to do that for Xenoblade. Like maybe switch things up like a little bit, because like I forgot who the character designer for 9 was, and I like whoever did 12, and like they switched things around a bit for Final Fantasy, and they should for
Right.
Xenoblade as well if they want to convey a different tone or tell a different story. But I want there to be some sort of design consistency, so when they see a character, they're like, that is a Xenoblade character, And we're already kind of getting there with the weapons, the swords, the outfits, things like that. So
Yeah. I think that's a great point, because like I mean I love Nomura. I don't
Tetsuya
care.
Nomura's
Like,
great, yeah.
I don't care. I mean, his designs are awesome. It was so
Amazing, yeah.
cool that Square let him work on 2.
Oh,
'Cause that was
yeah.
like a big deal. That was a big deal. And he got to work on Xenoblade 2 and design all the Torna characters. But no, I mean, I think I agree with you. I definitely think there needs to be consistency. But I will say, I personally am curious because, Saito handled most of the characters in 2. And then for 3, he only handled the main characters. So it's going to,
Yeah.
I'm curious because Monolith has been really building up their internal art team. So I am really curious to see if they perhaps are like, you know what, Xenoblade 4, we've closed this part of the story. Like, we're going to put our internal design team in and have them lead the charge on this. Because that would be interesting.
That
But
would be.
I do agree with you. I think that they need to stay consistent with what they've established, because otherwise then it's like, oh, people are like, okay, wait, what is this going on? And
Yeah.
I personally really do I think the series has a very unique look. And it's a lot different from other RPG series out there, just that you hold up a Xenoblade character versus a Final Fantasy versus a Persona. You know, they have their own identity. So I think that that's important. I think you make a great point there that they definitely need to stay consistent on it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Back to like Switch 2 kind of technical kind of things in terms of what Monolithsoft is going to do. Like I was saying before, Xenoblade 3, it has the regions. They feel interconnected, but you do have the loading screens in between. So I want the next Monolithsoft or Xeno game to have 0 loading screens. I want them to you can just go wherever you want. And I want a vehicle. I want something where I can preferably fly as well, because I remember when 3 came out, we saw the boat in the first trailer and we're like, oh, vehicles are back, that's great, hopefully we can get more than just this boat. But it was just the boat, and I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, we can't like fly around in our Ouroboros forms. Like, lore wise that won't make sense, but I was like, we didn't get like a flying machine, we didn't get something we can drive around in, like nothing like that. That was one thing that I was those two things, like loading screens between the regions and no vehicles, was one of my biggest gripes with Xenoblade 3 actually. And now like playing X, cruising around in the Hresvelg in the cruise mode where you like become a plane and you kind of go in like Star Fox mode, that makes me think that they're prototyping this for like a future game for the Switch too. So
yeah, I think that would be great. I mean, something that I maybe I'm in the minority on this, I'm not sure, but something for me, I definitely want to see Xenoblade in the future lean in towards the hard, heavy sci-fi.
Oh yeah.
Right now Xenoblade has a very, very, very unique, and this isn't for every game, but like let's take 2 for example. 2 has a phenomenal blend of fantasy elements and sci-fi elements, right? You go through all these fantasy environments, and then chapter 8 you're like, wow, I'm literally in this organic looking tree that's actually like a machine. It's super, right? Blew my mind when I played it.
Yeah.
And so
even Xenoblade 1, you start off in Bionis, everything's fantasy, then you go into Mechonis, everything is very like mechanized, and then you get to like Prison Island, you learn about all this stuff, and then you're like, whoa, there's a lot more like real world stuff getting into this than I initially thought.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, even with Xenoblade 3, right, you have origins, so you have stuff, you have elements there, but I definitely am hoping that in the future with, Switch 2, that we lean in towards more of the Xeno Saga sci-fi stuff, that, because I think you're absolutely right. The whole, the cockpit mode, that's something that people have wanted since X came out on the Wii U. And so getting to see that and actually experience that, and it's crazy because, I mean, that thing consumes fuel. I mean, it's fast, but you're sitting there like, all right, like this is so sick. You're just flying around in first person. So
I have a friend who doesn't fast travel anymore. He just uses Hresvel cruise mode to get around because it's so much fun. I don't blame him.
Dude. No, I don't blame him at all. I mean, I think it would be really interesting for me to see something like that kind of ship in a Xenoblade game, but maybe there's like combat involved in it. Like, I've seen people be like, oh, let Monolith make the next Star Fox game. Yeah, like a dogfight would be so cool. And I mean, I think that, vehicles, and that's something that's honestly making a comeback in the RPG world right now, is vehicles, right? We take Final Fantasy again. Part 3 is bringing the High Wind, which is going to be crazy.
And we got the Buggy in the Corel region for Rebirth.
I would just love to see them do something. I definitely agree. Like, I think you need to have some sort of flying thing, and I would love to see it more sci-fi-esque and like really doing that kind of stuff.
Tears of the Kingdom has your own vehicles that you create. Breath of the Wild has the Master Cycle. Atelier Yumiya has a cycle as well. It has a motorbike. Yeah. So a lot of these things are coming back. So that's really cool. And Monolithsoft knows open worlds. They know how to make open worlds, and the traversal aspect is a very big part of that. And they're obviously very involved in. They were involved in Tears of the Kingdom as well. So that's gonna be very exciting to see. I also agree. I think we might talk about story a little bit later, but with what I won't spoil too much, but what we did see at the end of Future Redeemed, feel like sci-fi and space travel is the direction they're going. And I will just say this right now. I've been telling a lot of my friends this. I have 3 games in mind right now that I want to see from Monolithsoft on the Switch 2. because they have grown significantly. They have almost like 300 developers now. They can probably be working on multiple projects at the same time. Like, a lot of my friends are like, hey, I feel like it's kind of a long shot, but maybe all 3 of these projects are in development at the same time, if not like kind of in the early stages. So I think, I know that you didn't feel the same way about this, but I do think that Monolithsoft new IP is still coming. I really feel like it is coming.
I don't think it's coming first. I think it's coming for Switch 2. I don't think it's coming first.
Okay.
Though. I think Xenoblade 4 is the next game.
I actually don't think Xenoblade 4 is coming first. I think it's coming last, because here is my like prediction timeline. Because I say X is done, and we got a lot of Xenoblade. We got like 3 Future Redeemed. We got X. They'll probably switch it up and give us a new IP next. They'll give us a new IP, we'll digest that, we'll enjoy it, and then Bandai Namco will come out and give us Xenosaga, because they want Xenosaga to like just kind of... Monolithsoft probably won't be involved in it, but like Bandai Namco will do that, we'll get to experience it, we'll get the context. Then, because they set up Xenoblade X, because remember what they did for Xenoblade 3. They had Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition with Future Connected tied into Xenoblade 3. I have not started the epilogue, but I'm fully convinced. I was convinced when I was playing the Wii U version that we're going to get a Xenoblade X sequel. Takahashi wants to do it as well. So I feel like what's next after new IP, X Definitive, and Xenosaga will be Xenoblade X2. And then once you get the picture of everything, Xenosaga, X Definitive, Epilogue, X Sequel, we get the whole picture, then Xenoblade 4 will blow our minds, because we have the whole picture, the whole context of the story, of the gameplay, of everything that leads into Xenoblade 4. So like, my joke is that Xenoblade 4 won't come out till like 2030. I don't mind waiting, because that will be the greatest game of all time. But like, I still feel like we could also see it sooner rather than later.
No, I mean, hey, I love discussing things with people. It's why I tell people on our videos all the time. It's like, I want to see your comments. I want to see what you think.
Yeah.
You know, my opinion is not all the end all mean all. But that's something that could definitely happen. I mean, in my eyes, in terms of what I think we'll see during Switch 2. So you're 100% right. You know, Monolith is the biggest that they've been. They've got 300 developers across their different studios, and really 2 branches. They've got the Kyoto branch that works most closely with Nintendo. And I've got the Tokyo branch, which is where Xenoblade's made. So my guess right now, I would assume that X Definitive Edition has been done for a little bit. And I would assume that Xenoblade 4 is in production and has been in production under Takahashi.
Yeah. That's the new RPG that he was talking about last year.
Yes. And the reason, and let me share my reasons for that. So number 1, because I want it. But number 2, there's a lot behind Xenoblade right now. Xenoblade sold, as of November 2024, 7.17 million units on Switch, right? Yeah. That's a huge number. And this is where, you know, people will have come out over the years and been like, okay, the Klaus saga is done. They're going to rename it to Xeno whatever. No, Xenoblade as a name is
they
way
need
too
the brand recognition.
You can't.
Yeah.
So this is the name. And I'm very convinced that, you know, with how well the series has been doing, 4 is going to be that first big game on Switch 2 for numerous reasons. I think there's just stuff that they want to set up and stuff like that. But I do think that that's probably what Takahashi specifically is working on. We'll call them Production Team 1.
Yeah.
However, there are Production Team 2 at Tokyo. They helped with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I think that, you know, the new IP thing, that is absolutely something that could happen. I really think it will probably happen in the next 7 years. I know that's a long time, but on Switch 2, I think we'll get a new IP for Monolith. Will Takahashi direct it though? I don't think so. That's my bold prediction. I don't think he'll direct it.
I think Kojima could.
Maybe Kojima or someone else. I wouldn't be surprised, because there's a lot of young talent that has been rising up over the last couple of years. Like, if you look at the credits list from Xenoblade 2, which granted had barely any developers, but Xenoblade 2 to Xenoblade 3, a lot of people have been moving up. I wouldn't be surprised to see some other people take the reins on that, with Kojima handling, technically being the director of 4 or whatever. But I will say X2, I 100% believe is happening. And that has nothing to do with me on the epilogue. Like, I'm not going to say anything about my thoughts on the epilogue. But I definitely do believe X2 is happening for one reason or another. I just think, look, talking without anything in the epilogue, the fact that there's more story should tell you something. Right?
Like I said, I believed it when I played the Wii U version. I was like, they can finish this off in a definitive edition, but there's so much story to tell, even from what they're hinting at in the base game. Like, there's some dialogue in Chapter 5 that tells you that the universe is much bigger than you can ever imagine. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that, X will continue probably as a sub-series of Xenoblade. I don't think that it's going to be a, okay, we're done with numbered titles, we're going to Xenoblade Y. Or, it's not going to be something like that, I don't think. But I do think that we will get a sequel to X on Switch 2. And then, beyond that, I don't really know. But I think that the Xenosaga remasters, Bandai Namco, the ball's in your court. I don't know. That's a whole other discussion.
And Harada was saying that, like, we didn't see much of a market for it, but they did that study before Xenoblade 2 came out. And the whole Xeno prefix, that brand name is vastly different in 2014 when I think they did the study versus post 2017, and now, like, Xenoblade 2, Torna, 3, Future Redeemed, X, like, there is like a whole new audience for these games now.
100%. We're to the point where the series is approaching 10 million copies sold worldwide. That's a big deal. I know Persona hit that a couple years ago, and look at how big that franchise has gotten. With Xeno specifically and Xenosaga, you have to remember, Bandai Namco helped and worked with Monolith on Future Redeemed. They are in the credits. They are in the credits. So they have been involved somewhat, whether it was, hey, we need you to sign off on a couple of things here and there. They've been involved in the
even in
series
2,
the last 3 years.
Because Cosmos and Telos are blades.
Yep. They're watching. I'll just put that. They're watching. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but I definitely think we'll be getting remasters, and I do think that Monolith will help with them. I don't think that there's going to be anything that's going to change. Probably not, but I do think that they will be helping with them, just because,
that's good to know.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't remember if they helped with Baten Kaitos.
I don't think they did.
Remasters. I don't think they did.
But I remember they did a creator's voice interview with Kojima. They brought Kojima in for the interview, and they're like, hey, what was it like developing the GameCube version of the game? So I thought that was pretty cool, but like,
it's definitely one of those things. I think, Baten Kaitos is kind of a different beast than Xenoblade, because, Xeno is still continuing. Baten Kaitos is just kind of like, okay, it's
that's Yasuyuki Hone passion project, which looks really cool. I love Hone's art and art direction, so I'm really excited to play those.
They're fun games. They're fun games. It's funny. I tell people all the time, and people are like, no. I'm like, yes, Monolith helped develop Dirge of Cerberus.
They did, they did. Yeah. That was...
I have very many... Maybe that might be my least favorite and the only bad Monolith game, but beyond that, I don't know.
Have you
they
played
needed some help in the gameplay department.
Yeah. Have you played Disaster Day of Crisis?
I've played part of it. I haven't finished all of it. I played part of it.
I want to look into that. I want to see what that's like. And I want to play Soulbringer as well. That looks really cool.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you're diving into the Monolith backlog, you should definitely play X Zone. If you the X Zone games are really fun. They're great.
I'll look into that. What I was getting at when I was giving my roadmap is, I feel like if an X sequel happens, I think we're going to expand the world so much, and with the power of Switch 2, I think they will go even beyond Mira. I think, like, the code name for Xenoblade X was space travel, so I really think that they're going to they're going to tap into space travel with this. And my joke that I tell my friends is, like, imagine Monolithsoft doing crazy space travel stuff on the Switch 2 that rivals something like Starfield, that has Bethesda shaking in their chairs. They're like, oh my god, how is a Nintendo studio doing this on the Switch 2 and doing it so well? And
Yeah.
I really think that, I mean, I'm probably thinking too big, but like with the sci-fi approach, with the sci-fi direction, I think that is definitely something that they could tap into and they can go down. And eventually playing more into that with Xenoblade 4, I would be very excited to see how that plays on Switch 2.
Yeah, I don't think you're playing it too big at all. I mean, I think with the technology that they have now, I mean, let's do multi-planetary exploration. I mean, honestly, I feel like that's the next step, right? It would have to be.
I mean, Takashi wanted to do that on PS2 from what it looks like.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I know. It's like, oh man, I definitely think that like whatever the X sequel is gonna be like mind-blowing, because it's just gonna be, you know, it's the same way that we look at Xenogears and Xenosaga right now with the story bits and be like, oh my gosh, like, this is so next level. It's like you're gonna look at Xenoblade 2 X2 and be like, wow, like this was the prototype. Like this, you know, this is crazy. I mean, and we saw that with Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, and like what, you know, that is the game. The only reason that those games exist the way they do is because of Xenoblade X.
Yeah, most definitely. Monolithsoft is just so ambitious in everything they do, so I'm very, very excited to see where else they go with all of this. In terms of story, I guess I guess we might get into a little bit of spoiler stuff here. Nothing for X or the epilogue, but probably for the numbered games. I do have a little bit of predictions, but I will say one thing about X is I might talk about some base game spoilers. That's for the viewers. So if you haven't beaten the base game of X, that might be your spoiler, but nothing epilogue related. Nothing epilogue related. The reason I say base game spoilers is because my theory of how Xenoblade X could be connected to the main games is through something like Origin. Origin reminds me of a lot of the mechanisms of Mira and the mysteries of Mira. And I feel like since the conduit is gone, we will be telling a story beyond the conduit, pun intended, where like, yeah, the conduit is gone after Xenoblade 2. It could have gone somewhere entirely different, but now we have a new, entirely different, like, man-made kind of machine with Origin, and I think that will play into the future of the series, where Origin might create new worlds like how we saw at the end of Future Redeemed, and the main force of creation instead of the conduit will be from Origin. And also, another prediction of mine, zero returning new characters. I know a lot of people want to see Noah and Mio come back, maybe even Shulk and Rex come back, just to like tie up some loose ends. To me, there's no loose ends to tie up. Xenoblade 3 did everything. Future Redeemed did everything. The whole point of Xenoblade 3 is to move on to the future, not forget the past, but leave the past behind. You've learned so much from it, you've experienced so much from it, but walk towards a new future with, like, just don't bring the new characters back, please. Don't.
I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I really like. And I will say, you know, since I'll just keep it to numbered game spoilers, but you know, I think that whatever Xenoblade 4 is going to take place on Earth now that it's been reformed. Now, granted, I think that's what makes it exciting to me, because it's like, okay, this is where you can get the sci-fi stuff in, right? Like the sci-fi stuff on Earth now, you know, maybe hundreds of years after it's been reformed, which would be really cool. And I think that, you know, overall, we'll have to see. But no, I definitely agree. I don't think that I agree with your assessment on 3. I don't expect to see any of the characters return. Now, granted, I do think we'll see some references here and there if it's on Earth. But I don't think that we'll be seeing any, like, you know, hey, Rex is back. Like, no, we're not gonna see any of that. And yeah, I mean, beyond that, it's like I'm really curious to see kind of where they go with it. I think there's so many. I think your Origin thing is really interesting.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, it'll just be really interesting if the story, in my opinion, if it is sci-fi, you know, will the story be contained to Earth or will it go beyond? And I think that's what we have to, you know, figure out. Well, it's up to Takahashi and the team.
Yeah.
But it'll be really interesting to kind of see where they go from here, because to me, it's like, you know, I understand, like, oh, you know, the Klaus saga is over.
Yeah.
But I still think, I still think that Xenoblade 4 it's still the result of everything that he did. It's still his action is still relevant.
The ramifications will be there forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like I agree, but I also don't agree with the fact that, okay, yes, Klaus and everything, it's gone. Like I think that the Trinity processor is still going to play a key role in the future. And, wherever we go from here, it's anyone's guess. But I do think that, like, these cruxes and these key parts that have been critical to the series thus far are going to continue to stay that way. And we just don't, we're not going to see, okay, Klaus actually had a third personality that got reformed and he's back.
I think one returning character or one returning concept will probably most definitely be Logos or Malos, because Takahashi himself said that, like, he confirmed that Malos or Logos was within End Sword, and he says the reason for that I cannot explain right now, and that wording was very specific. I was like, I think he has a reason for that. I think he has a reason for not telling us, and
I just want to know his reason for not saying Pyron Mithra's name. That's my biggest gripe with Future Team. It was like, I was like, come on. I was like, when they're in the final fight, I'm like, dude, just say the name. It's them. It's this. I'm like, bro, like, what are we doing?
And even Fiora, they like a lot of older characters. I think Future Redeemed was very on the nose about that. They were like, we want you to remember this stuff, but we want you to, like, walk away from it. We want you to like walk into the future. We don't want to remind you of Pyramithra. We don't want to remind you of Fiora or Dunban or anyone, and like or even Zeke and Pandoria, because they were mentioned, or Ryan or Sharla, because they're like relevant to some of the characters as well. And yeah, they don't mention anyone by name, and I realized that. I thought that was weird at first, but I think it's very deliberate. So that's for another thing. But I'm very excited to see where they're going to go with it. I'm very excited for Malos to potentially come back in a whole new form, because I kept telling other people, like, we've seen 3 different versions of the other cores. We've seen Pyramithra Numa, we've seen Alvis, A, and Alpha, but we've only seen Malos. And then we've seen him in the Sword. So, like, we got to see more of Logos, and I'm very excited to see what form that comes in.
I mean, he's such a good character. Such a good character. And so it's like, I'm definitely hoping that, he legitimately returns and we actually get some really cool stuff, because I think that would be sick. But I agree with you. I do think that if we don't see, Ontos or Numa, we're going to see Logos appear in Xenoblade 4 and play a key role, I think, in the story.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with that. I guess to close out our discussion, I want to kind of tie it back to some of the Switch 2 controversy, but bring in the Xenoblade and Monolithsoft discussion back in. $80 games is a big discussion point with, like, the past couple of weeks. I watched your Switch Point episode. I know you're pretty upset about it. I'm upset about it too, and it sucks. Like I said in one of my videos, like, there would have been games that I would have been interested in getting on the Switch 2 for like maybe $60 or $70, but now with the $80 bump, it's not that much of a like draw for me. Like, there's so many games I can see on my shelf for Switch 1 that I wouldn't have normally got, but since they were like on the Switch, they were reasonably priced, I got them. But now, like, $80 Mario Kart, even if the Mario Kart Direct is gonna blow us away, I'm still hesitant on it, and it scares me for the future of other first-party games. I know they said it's variable or whatever, but I don't know what they mean by that. But like I said, I wanted to tie this into Xenoblade. I have to ask the dreaded question: will Xenoblade 4 or whatever Monolithsoft makes, will that be $80? Because Doug Bowser said, "Oh, it'll depend on like how much development time we put into it, and we'll gauge based on many factors." Well, there was a joke going online that if you're judging by development time, then Pokemon Gen 10 will probably be $20 and Xenoblade 4 will be $200. So where is the limit? And I'm already like bracing myself for an $80 3D Zelda. I'm not gonna like it, but that might be one of the very few $80 purchases that I make. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the higher prices of games and what that means for our favorite like RPGs and first party games?
Yeah, so Nintendo is, Doug Bowser is saying variable pricing, whatever. Nintendo's doing this because they know they can.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And, people, I talked about, we talked for 4 hours on that about after the direct, because we just had so much to talk about. But it was like, the big thing for me, and I think that people online are trying to find an excuse to not blame Nintendo. And it's okay. But the truth of the reality is this. They're charging $80 for Mario Kart because they know they can, and they know people will still buy it. And that's the same, has nothing to do with variable pricing or anything. They did it with Tears of the Kingdom. It's $70, and it sold 20 million copies in no time. And that's because they knew people would buy it. So I don't think that Xenoblade 4 will be $80, because I think that Nintendo is looking at this strategically on a plan of how many copies are we going to sell? And if it's going to sell 10 million copies, it's going to be $80. If it's not, then it's not. Because you have to look, think about the series that, okay, you're rushing in the store to get. It's Mario Kart, it's 3D Mario, it's Zelda, it's Splatoon, it's Animal Crossing.
Smash Bros. Smash Bros will be another. Yeah.
See, those are the ones that I think that we'll probably see $80 tags for. But everything else, it's like I saw someone be like, oh, Arms 2 is going to be $80.
Yeah.
No, they're not that. That's not going to happen. That's not realistic. Now, granted, we've already seen a great example of this, right? Donkey Kong, which is, there's a chance I have a lot of speculation about that game of who's developing it. There's potential that NST in Washington is helping develop it with EPD and with the Mario team.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, the Mario team is involved. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
And so, they're charging $70 for that. And the reason is not because of quality. That game looks incredible.
It looks great.
The game, the reasoning for that is because, we don't know that a 3D Donkey Kong game is going to sell 10 million.
We haven't seen it since the N64 days.
Right.
And this is the first in-house Donkey Kong game since, ever, because first it was Rare, then it was Retro, and even since then, how long has it been since Tropical Freeze? 11 years.
2014.
11 years.
Yep. And I'm a huge Donkey Kong fan, so I was over the moon. The Donkey Kong game made by the Mario Odyssey team, that rumor came up in 2020.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for it, and finally we got it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks so good. So I'm super excited for that. But I think that's a good example of point to a game when they're talking about this quality stuff. That's a game that looks very high quality, and I'm sure it will be great and it's going to be amazing. They're charging $70 for it, and so I think that this generation, if you're a Nintendo fan, you need to go into it expectation wise of okay, Nintendo first-party games are going to be $70, with the exception of, they've charged $50 for games like last year they had MEO, Famicom Detective Club. That was a $50 game. Amazing game, by the way.
Yeah.
So that was $50. I bet
WarioWare, the WarioWare games are also $50, I think. Yeah. $50.
So I think those will probably be $60, and then I think you're going to see the standard rate be $70. And you're going to see these, their biggest IPs, the games, again, that they know that they can get away with. They know that you're going to walk to the store and you're going to buy $80 because you're like, I have to have this game, right? Those are the games that are going to be $80. Xenoblade does not sell enough right now to sell $80. Now, granted, if Xenoblade by the end of the gen is selling, 8 million copies in the first month or two, that maybe there's an $80 thing. I don't know. But I think right now, in terms of their next game, it's not going to be $80.
Yeah, and
I'd be really surprised.
JRPGs in general are relatively, I wouldn't say, JRPGs are, they're still niche. They're getting a little bit more mainstream, where you got games like Persona 5, Metaphor Fantasio, Dragon Quest 11. These games are pushing the 4+ million, Dragon Quest 11 specifically, 4+ million. Metaphor, I don't know, we didn't get an updated sales number for that. And some other stuff, Fire Emblem Three Houses, it hit 4 million plus. So in that way, they're still niche compared to your Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so I think 60 to 70 is reasonable, but I am also cognizant of companies like Square Enix and Atlas. Atlas is doing all right with it. Like, Persona 3 Reload was 70. Everyone was a little upset about that, but it became the fastest selling Atlas game or Persona game. Metaphor was 70, and everyone's like, what are they? They're out of their minds. Crazy, like, lackluster marketing, focused on Xbox. They're not branching out. New IP priced at $70. I still to this day say, if that demo didn't come out, the story behind Metaphor's success would have been a completely different story. I'm so happy that demo came out, but luckily that demo helped push it to become the next fastest selling Atlas game at $70. So Atlas sees that success at 70. Square Enix is a whole other story, and like that's a whole other thing. $70 Final Fantasy 16. Oh no, actually their first one was Intergrade. FF7 Intergrade was 70, then FF16, then Rebirth 70. They sold well, but they didn't sell the way a Final Fantasy game should have sold.
Right.
Various factors surrounding that. That's a whole other topic. I would actually like to pick your brain on that, maybe in a whole other podcast. Yeah. That's a very interesting topic that I've talked about with other people. But that is my one like kind of hesitation with pricing a Fire Emblem or a Xenoblade at 70. It's that barrier of entry. But I think with the Nintendo quality, with the Monolithsoft quality, or if you're looking at Fire Emblem with the Intelligent System quality, I think it'll be okay. I think they'll still sell relatively well, but that's just where we're going with games now, I guess.
No, 100%. And you make some fair points, but I will say, like, and I'm not happy saying this, but I do think that they have used the Switch, and not that they did this intently, but the Switch has built up these franchises enough to where there's enough word of mouth that it is getting out. I mean, Xenoblade X, the reveal trailer has like 1.7 million views. It's the most viewed Xenoblade, on anything, quickest for Xenoblade X, like instantly. So that really, I don't know how well it's sold. We won't know until the investors meeting.
I'm very curious to hear how much it's sold.
Yeah, no, I'm very curious too. But I think in the case of like Xenoblade and Fire Emblem, the big thing that these companies like that you mentioned, Atlas and Square Enix, are taking advantage of is FOMO. And that's a real thing in the games industry that people don't really talk about. But, so many people, and remember, if you're online, you're on Twitter, you're tweeting about these games, you are a minority in the games industry. You're about the 10%. Because something that I think a lot of people don't realize is like 90% of people in the industry that play games buy like 2 to 3 a year. That's it. They don't buy like, I buy so many.
Or they don't even buy games. Like one of my coworkers, he just plays Fortnite, and that's all he plays. Yeah. But he's still a gamer because he logs into PSN all the time. So yeah.
No, it's something that I think you have to kind of get out of your bubble to kind of realize that. But like, like even us talking right now, like we are in the minority of like super fans, right? That's not something that everyone is. And so whenever they're making these pricing decisions, like, if you're in this, these people that buy a bunch of games a year, they're not worried about you. And the reason quite simply is because it's, fear of missing out. And it's something real in the industry of, you see someone playing this game and you're like, oh man, like that looks so good. So-and-so said that this game was great. Oh, I read, I'm not going to get into how I feel about aggregated review scores, but like, the Metacritic score is XYZ. Oh my gosh, I have to buy it. I mean, that's a real thing for a lot of people. And
that's what influenced a lot of my friends to get Metaphor, because they were hesitant. Oh, new IP, it's not going to be like Persona 5. And I was like, I'm telling you guys, 90 plus, it's going to happen. They're like, oh, mid 80s. They saw 94 and they're like, oh, I'm gonna get this now. And I was like, yeah.
It's and that's something that's really picked up over the last like probably 5 years, is like, the aggregated review score holds so much weight for so many people online, to the point that like, people get mad if it's not a 90, which is crazy.
Yeah, and it factors into bonuses, but that's a whole other story. But it's
something that companies are using now. It's something that players are using to look at, and it's something that is driving purchase decisions. And so that's why when we talk about the $70 price tag, that's something that I think is affecting that the reason that we're talking about it is because it affects 90% of the people who play games. Like you have to be willing to convince someone that buys like 3 games a year, hey, you need to spend not $60 but $70 on this release. And this is, if you only buy a couple games a year, like that's a big investment. So I think that that's the trick that they're going to have to face. But again, the Nintendo quality, and I will say, I have probably 2 games that I feel I actually got my $70 out of. And that's Rebirth and Tears of the Kingdom. And that's it. I don't feel like I got my $70 out of any other game I played.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think that that's something that, we have to keep in mind. And I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see people not, dive in at launch a little bit less.
I'm going to be a little more selective now because like I am more of an adventure and RPG guy. So Donkey Kong looks cool. Maybe I'll wait it out a bit. Maybe I'll wait it out for 3D Mario as well, despite it possibly looking very good. Like Zelda, Xenoblade Fire Emblem, Metro Prime 4, that's what I'm going to like have for my first party games on the Switch.
Yeah.
And then I'll see what else is coming out. Yeah, because I agree with you. Like $70 is a huge ask. I remember I got Horizon Forbidden West from a friend. I got the PS4 version from him for $40. God of War Ragnarok, I got that for $70, but I enjoyed it. But like looking back at it, I'm like, I could have waited for a sale, honestly. Tears of the Kingdom was an interesting story. I ended up paying $50 for that because of GameStop missing out on my pre-order, me having to go to the opening launch, them refunding me more than I bought the game for, and then me trading in some games, so the total ended up to like $50. So I was very happy with that because I got my money's worth for $50. Because I was a little hesitant for 70. I was like, I'm so hyped for Tears of the Kingdom, but like 70 is tough. Metaphor I got for 70 because I was incredibly hyped for it. I actually, sort of ashamed to say, but I got the collector's edition on PS5 and then I got it on Steam because I wanted to play it on Steam Deck. But it was a great game, great. I loved it so much. And then of course FF7 Rebirth, which I really enjoyed as well. But with the bump up to 80, I'm very firm on this. Like now with some kind of changes with the whole pre-order situation, I might have to, I maybe not say have to, but I'm probably looking to jump onto the console a little earlier than I expected to. But I'm probably gonna have to skip out on Mario Kart unless I get that bundle. Because
I'm the same way. I'm sorry. I love Mario Kart, but I said this. I recorded my reaction just in case there was anything Xenoblade, and I was watching it back, and I'm like, I'm not paying $80 for this. I'm like, I don't care enough. Like it looks fun.
It looks good,
but it's also just like I'm not the kind of person that sits down at my TV and I'm like, okay, let me play some Mario. Like that's a party game for me. So it's like now Donkey Kong, I will be paying the 70 for. But I agree with you. The only way I'm getting Mario Kart is if I get the bundle, and I love my physicals, so I'm like. Oh, like I'm getting, I don't know, but we'll see. If I get it, it's the bundle.
With some games that I'm not as like attached to, I'm fine with the digital, because even with my Switch 1, the first game I got was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I just downloaded it from the eShop because I was like, oh, I can just get it from the eShop, so easy.
Yeah.
And then everything else first party, I prioritize physical, but yeah, it's tough. But like you said, I'm optimistic for Xenoblade, Fire Emblem, those games to be priced reasonably. Zelda is a whole other story, but we'll see about that.
Maybe it's 100 by the time that, because you have to think about this too. By the time the next 3D Zelda comes out, because they would have started production in late 2022.
Yeah.
So I give it probably 2027, probably when we get it.
That's reasonable.
The Zelda movie's gonna be out.
Oh, okay. And by that time, Grand Theft Auto 6 will have released. It'll probably be minimum $80, if not $90 or $100. So yeah.
I'm not even worried, to be honest. Like with the $80 games, it's not even Nintendo that makes me mad about it. It makes me mad that this is going to cause the other publishers.
It's a green light.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ghost of Yotei is $80. I bet it will be.
Yeah, Sony, Microsoft, Ubisoft, EA.
Well, hey, if it's a Sega or a Ubisoft game, my rule is wait 3 weeks and it'll be half off.
Wait for the sale. Yeah, but yeah, that's how I feel as well. Anyways, I think that about does it. Any other final things you want to say about Monolithsoft, Xenoblade, the future of the series and the company and Switch 2 or anything like that?
No, I mean, I want to say thank you so much for having me on. It was a really great time. I think
Yeah,
we had a great discussion.
it was great.
But I will say,
Yeah.
I was just say on the series, I'm really, really excited to see what's next. I said this in my review. I'm like, I have no idea what the next game is going to be, but like, I'll be here day one to talk about
Okay.
it. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited, and I know it'll be great regardless.
Yeah,
So.
the lead up to Xenoblade games is always so much fun. Like, I was sort of there for Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition, but I wasn't really a fan then. The lead up to Xenoblade 3 was one of my favorite times in gaming, actually, because that's when I really kind of started to build a niche for content creation as well. So that
Right.
was a lot of fun. I met so many new people, I made so many new friends. It's my favorite Nintendo Switch game, one of my favorite games of all time, so that was great. Lead up to Future Redeemed was also great. Lead up to X was different. It felt different because a lot of us knew what to expect, and it was very busy for me, like with just a lot of things happening in life. But I had a great time, and yeah, it was great chatting with you. Noah, what are your upcoming projects with Beyond the Conduit, Final Weapon, Under the Plate? You got any teases for us and where we can find you on YouTube and the internet?
Just FNLWPN on all platforms for social media or YouTube. In terms of teases, I'm working on probably too much with everything going on. But I will say there is a project that might be 12 hours long related to Xenoblade that I might have tried to get out last year that is hopefully coming out this summer.
Oh my god, that's exciting.
And I'm also working on a probably 4-hour retrospective on a certain game getting a sequel in June. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Exciting stuff. But yeah, Noah, thank you so much for joining. I really had a good time chatting with you, and especially having someone from like a video game journalist outlet talking with you, getting your whole kind of comprehensive like thoughts on everything on Monolithsoft, the future of Xenoblade. It's been a lot of fun, especially since we're kind of on the same wavelength on a lot of this stuff, so it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had a great time, and I will say I'll share a story I think that'll be fun for people.
Yeah.
That I had an interaction with Doug Bowser. What was it, in December?
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit, and I told him we were talking a bit about Monolith, and I told him I was like, I said, thank you. I just want to say, I'm sure you've seen it, but thank you so much for the support that Nintendo of America has shown for Xenoblade, because it's really paid dividends, and this is such a great series that I'm seeing more people get into, and I'm so happy about that. And of course, Doug Bowser's response was, "You see, we get that 4%," because he's talking about when they bought out the 4% from Takahashi, and I was like, of course, this guy's talking about the equity in the company. But I was like, yes, sir, I did. That's real. I said, I think that's really symbolic, and he was like, oh, it definitely was. And I said, and I was like, well, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Nintendo, but also Monolith. And he was like, be excited. And that was it. So I'm just saying, I'll have to catch next time I see him, whether it be at Summer Game Fest, probably not, but probably Game Awards. I'll have to see what's up.
Yeah.
But I tell that story a couple times.
That's so awesome. That's a great anecdote. Tell him.
It's very fitting when you read his interviews of late.
Yes, and I like Doug Bowser, but like, you see the difference between him and Reggie. It's kind of apparent, but it's interesting. And next time you see him at Summer Games Fest, tell him Nish Cook Pops thanks him for marketing Xenoblade X DE like crazy with NOA.
No, don't worry. I'll give him your business card. Don't worry.
Yeah, tell him to subscribe to the channel. But yeah,
that's right. Subscribe to Nish quick.
Yeah, Noah, all of his links, Final Weapon, the social media, the YouTube channel, will all be linked in the description below. Thanks so much for joining, and yeah, thank you everyone for watching up to this point. This is Nishquick and Noah Hunter signing off. Have a great day. Go play some great games today, like a Xenoblade Chronicles or Monolithsoft game on the Nintendo Switch to get ready for Switch 2. I'll see you guys in the next one later.